Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes this afternoon. I'm joined by Quinny, just as I was yesterday, to watch Celtic facing St Mirren in the League Cup final. And we should also be joined by Kevin Graham, the long-standing compadre, in just a few moments as well. He's had a wee bit of a holiday, but he is keen to get back in and give us his opinion on everything that's happened, Quinny. We're going to get lots of opinions coming through in the comments, no doubt. But what have we done? We've had a look at yesterday's performance, the performances throughout the season, really as a whole. The fact that we're on to management team number 3 and it's only December, and I'm calling it a nightmare on Kerrydale Street. Who is directing this horror show? Quinny, because, you know, all these big movies that flop, nobody looks at the actors. They always blame the directors. You know, you can be an actor and have a couple of bad movies and get over it quite easily. When you're a director of a movie, nobody wants to invest in you, and that's money, that's emotion, that's belief, and that's confidence. This is where we are.
Yeah, it's a really weird spot, isn't it? Like, the game was a really weird final overall, like especially being at the fan zone. And thanks to everyone that showed up to it. Obviously, it wasn't great conditions, so it was good to see everyone that came out for it. Normally it goes a little bit better. You know, I've been in that before for a cup final with you guys, and it was good crack. So sadly, not to be on the day, but it's like you say, the director in the movie thing is quite a funny example, I think, again as well, because you know, like it is it's not one person. You know, Wilfred Nancy's not came in and like made problems in the last 10 days. You know, he's having to fight problems and just really deal with the reality of the situation as it is. So it's it's all up in the air really quickly. The chat's firing away, sorry, so I'm kind of all over the place with staying on point. But
that is very much so, Quinny, and it's going to be one of those days, weeks, and who knows how long this is going to be the way whereby so many people have got so much to say. And what I'm going to open up with, and I'm going to throw this over to Kev as well, is in relation to the fact that under these circumstances, the worst thing you can do is sit on the fence. So what you're going to get from Acsom contributors, and I've no briefed anybody, but what you'll get, because I know everybody well enough and people have been on the show long enough, is you're just going to get honest views. And the best thing we'll try and do after giving you a view is to back it up with a rationale or workings, if you like. Remember the old maths test, Kev? You would always have to show your workings, because otherwise you've just copied for the guy next door. You just copied the homework. This is, as one of the comments came up, the Nightmare Before Christmas. Absolutely. Let's talk Christmas movies. Die Hard. Is Groundhog Day a Christmas movie? It is now, because we're living it with Nancy. We're seeing the same old, Kev. Quinny is right, though. And I got a wee bit of kickback on this last night on the socials. It's not just, you know, the product on the park isn't just down to the players and the manager. It's deeper. It always is, by the way, but it's deeper than just the manager and the group of players, Kev. That is an issue. Don't get me wrong, and we'll touch on it. But the issues that Celtic have at the moment are really deep-rooted issues, aren't they?
This has been, this year, because it is now a year, 10 months anyway, since February, has been in the post for ages. And the postman's just now eventually delivered it.
And thrown it over your fence, you know, unceremoniously. It's smashed. It's been raining since you find it. It's a shambolic delivery, Kev, is what it is. I'm not going to name any names for couriers, but I think you can all guess.
Yes, it is a shambolic
delivery. Single one of them. Right, yeah. Shambolic.
And none of us are actually surprised, if you've listened to Acsom for long enough, that this day has eventually come.
We used to have a bit of a disagreement about the root of these issues at times, Kev, and the vision and the ambition of the club. But I think we're more aligned probably 8 years down the line than we were at the start.
It is, and we are where we deserve to be. And there's no argument about that. And us as a support, we just need to be humble and accept where we are at the moment, because it's not the support's fault. It's gross mismanagement of the club. It's not as if we've came in and we've been upserved by the 49ers ploughing in billions to a football team. It's been our own downfall that's here, and it's just completely and utterly wild. Yesterday was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But what was even more, not even surprising, was when you were leaving the stadium. I left at 80 minutes because there was no way we were getting back into that game. And there was no anger, no frustration. It was the Michael Nicholson shrug of the shoulders. Right, but we've lost 2 cup finals this year. We've been put out with Kyra. This is where we are as a football club, and it's not going to get any better. Mainly because we've got guys making decisions that we do not trust to make the decisions, who seem to be just making one massive cock up after the next cock up. You can have a look at it, and I hear the shouts for Martin O'Neill. We shouldn't have changed it, and that's hindsight for us. That is real hindsight for us. But what Martin O'Neill done with that squad we knew wasn't good enough. We knew that squad wasn't good enough. It's a poor squad. But Martin O'Neill made them feel comfortable in their own skin. It wasn't great, but we were getting results over the line. What Wilfred Nancy's came in and tried to get us to do, it's like asking a cat to decorate my house. The players have not got a clue what they're meant to be doing, and it's an utter shambles. It is a real shambles. And I says last week, and as soon as it was an underwhelming appointment for me, but once he becomes the Celtic manager, you then start looking in, and everything that he actually says has been utter nonsense since he's arrived through the door of the football club. Utter nonsense. He says to the papers on Saturday before the cup final, I've listened to the players. Then plays Dyson Maeda as a number 10. Liam Scales as a left wing back, as a winger in that second half. He brings on Luke McCowan as a left wing back. It was like a toddler playing Jenga. It was utterly chaotic. And you can see the players. The players have got that haunted look in their eyes now. And even though they haven't been great for 10 months, and none of them deserve any of your sympathy. When you look at the interviews with Trusty and Scales, their faces tell it all. They're absolutely haunted with what they're getting asked to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes. We can have the argument about the recruitment. The recruitment's been poor for years and years. This has been a steady decline since Ange Postecoglou wandered out that football club, and it's complete gross mismanagement. But you can actually tell you can actually see the players that there's a haunted look in those players' faces now. And these subs yesterday. Can anybody explain these subs to me yesterday? Because we were behind the goals, low level, where the Green Brigade should have been. We were in their seats, and you can't actually see much tactical wise when you're that low down. And it was just dreadful. And you look at St Mirren. St Mirren are comfortable in their skin. They know what they can do. Martin O'Neill had this poor squad comfortable in their skin, but Wilfred Nancy is asking these guys to play football that they cannot play because they just haven't got the ability to actually play it. There was one point in the second half that I knew we were done for when Liam Scales tried to play a ball to Kieran Tierney and just played it right out of the park.
I know.
And I went.
The Ralston one as well, Kev. There was a Ralston moment where
I says, we're done for here. And my pal Davy Ross next to us, he went like that. It's next goal the winner here. And as soon as St Mirren scored, that was it. We're not coming back for this. It's 2025 can go on day one for me, but hey, you've got to be glad it happened. We've got to be glad we've had the success. Be humble with it and just realise this is your own fault.
I agree with humility, Kev, but also the way that I think we need to look at this is how to resolve it as well. Let's not accept this as being our level for a year, 3 years. I also don't subscribe to the fact that in order to get proper change, you need to go through a transitional period of no success. I think that's bad planning. If you want proper change, part of that change is to manage the transitional period to ensure that you continue with the success. Because I've seen this, levied as a reason for, it's transactional. We're going from transitional, rather. We're going from one regime to the next. This will happen. No, that's bad planning. You need to have something in place, Kev, where this doesn't happen.
It is real bad planning. I remember I've had dogs abuse on here. I'll get dogs about me.
Dogs and cats and Jenga. Welcome back.
I get dogs abuse on here. because I says during the summer that if we wanted root and branch change, we might need to fall off the edge of a cliff. And folks said that what you're exactly they're saying, Paul, that doesn't need to happen, but hey, we might be on that train now until it actually does fall right off the cliff.
In your defence, Kev, in your defence, mate, what I would say is the only way this board will change is if we fall off the edge of a cliff. So I think part of what you're saying is true. This board are basically pulled the shutters down, Quinny. They've pulled the shutters down. All the issues that we're going to discuss at some point today with regards to personnel, individual players, confidence, the squad management, every single bit of that in terms of the board is Brendan Rodgers' fault. Go and read the statement again from Dermot Desmond. Dermot Desmond would have been less inflammatory if he erected a burning effigy of Brendan Rodgers off of the Brother Wilfred statue than that statement that came out on the Monday night. Go and have a look at it. He blames everything on Brendan Rodgers. It was his fault, and we're now trying to clear up the mess. Can you believe, Quinny, that this Celtic board are in that frame of mind at this moment in time? They don't think it's their fault. They don't think it's Paul Tisdale's fault. It's certainly not the new manager's fault. It's Brendan's fault. And all those pesky anti-establishment fans. It's all their fault as well, Quinny.
Yeah, well, who do you blame now, I suppose, isn't it? Because I think like the thing I've always kind of said throughout all this kind of board stuff is if they want to believe the stuff that they're saying, which we all find quite crazy, frankly, but if they want to believe that, they need to act appropriately. They need to actually, put their money where their mouth is, and the expression is probably quite appropriate at this point. So it's one of those ones where I think at this point in time, like I'm trying to keep on top of the chat as well because there's a lot going on around all of this. I think that the thing with Nancy at this point in time is it's as well having Martin O'Neill on the radio this morning. I don't know if he's listened to that, but I managed to catch it before coming on. It just kind of brings a whole new kind of dimension into the conversation when you hear he's saying like, "Oh yeah, I'd have stayed on if they asked me," and he was happy to do his time when he done it too. And Martin O'Neill also said this morning it was like it's just kind of like a little sentence in one of his little kind of segments. But he said when the manager wanted to start was like kind of the words he'd used or something like that. So it kind of maybe felt like in that regard, maybe Nancy's wanted to come in at this point. And at the moment, like if you look at the last 3 games that we've had, it was always going to be an uphill battle coming into this. And if the board believe it's Brendan's mess and the squad is in balance because he wouldn't let us sign the guys we ID'd and he wouldn't play ball with the squad department or whatever, then they've decided to write off that cup final. They've decided like, okay, we need to get a guy that plays this totally different system that we've not had at the club for a while because that's the trajectory we're going to go down. And the best time to do it between us and the manager, we're deciding it's as soon as possible. And that happened to be the Hearts game. And it's a rip the plaster off situation. And if that's where we find ourselves, again, I said it last night when I went live, like I find it incredible we've not signed somebody for January at this point with how under the cosh the club is and how undermanned we are in so many ways. Again, Nancy said that they tried to talk to me about transfers when he arrived and he was kind of like, give me a chance to train first. So fair on that regard. But even still, we know the club's doing the deals anyway. They're doing the business. They know that the summer was not done and, so many pieces of unfinished business that over the last, like how many months we're talking here, 3 or 4 or whatever, like how do we not already have deals in the works without Iheanacho? I think yesterday, up until Iheanacho went off, I thought we looked good. I thought we got better. I think you can see the system working, but as soon as Iheanacho comes off, it's like a man down.
As soon as Iheanacho went off, our chances of winning that game went with him. Yep. We went completely with him, and that was a feeling in the stadium as well when it actually happened.
See the problem with that as well, though, Kevin. It was raised yesterday. Well, twofold. The first one is we could point to moments of all 3 games. I mean, I seen a compilation. It's like you can make just about anything look good. Raphael Scheidt was signed after video analysis. You can make just about anything look good. And I seen the compilation on the socials by the Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, look at this rip-roaring football." Listen, we've just been pumped 3 times in a row. We're no longer in a position to get to the top of the league with our game in hand because we're not going to win 5 or 6-0, right? The Europa League is a pipe dream and the League Cup final's been lost. So see all these little snippets of, oh, that was a decent wee bit of play. I think it's masking the wider issue, which, and I'm going to say it because I'm not sitting on the fence, the players have not bought into Nancy. They've not bought into him. There's a moment when McCowan's taking a corner kick. You might remember it, Quinny. I'm standing next to you. McCowan is screaming. screaming at somebody. And I'm thinking, this is so dysfunctional. The players are arguing. The other night, it was Nygren and Schmeichel. Nobody, don't know why that thumbs came up. Nobody knows what they're doing. It is so dysfunctional. Now, the quality of a passing move, right, I'm sorry, I'm not giving that credit to Nancy. We've seen these little snippets all season under 3 different managers now. So I can't look at these compilations and say, oh, I can see what he's doing. Just give him time, give him the window. Right, let's talk about the window. Kevin, I'm going to come to you. It's no magic wand. It's Paul Tisdale running the window in January. That frightens the life out of me. I'm glad we're not playing Auchinleck Talbot on Wednesday night.
What I'm laughing at.
Tongue in cheek, kidding, not kidding.
Aye, I'm laughing at that.
Don't even say that, man. Don't even say that.
I'm laughing at Pete in the comments, who's actually like, Kev will agree this feels like the 77-78 season. I was 1.5. I don't know what age Pete thinks I was.
Your first game was early 80s, wasn't it? Greenock Morton at Capel.
Greenock Morton, Capel in 1981. So, I was maybe 2 that season, Pete. Sorry if I come across far older, but well, to go back to what Quinny was saying there, right? We haven't stuck to type here.
Yeah.
I get a devious wee hanging my head here. Dermot Desmond's absolutely slaughtered us, and he's went like that. Right, I'm going to give you what you want. I'm going to let somebody else pick this manager, and when it all goes tits up, I'm going to come in and save you by appointing the man I would have appointed in the first place, because that's what narcissistic egomaniacs do.
They're vindictive, you're right.
They're vindictive. And when this man fails, I've got a man to blame and he'll get kicked out the door. We've already seen you can be Dermot's best pal 1 week, then all of a sudden you're not his best pal 30 seconds later, you're actually at the door. And that was something, this is where I came up with the Ted Lasso thing with. And I didn't mean it. I meant it really, really tongue in cheek, because that's, if anybody's ever worked Ted Lasso, that's what's actually happened. They appoint a manager that they think's going to fail, so they can actually sell the football club. And I went, surely, even in my mind, that is just completely and utterly bonkers. But then you start thinking about it, going, who's came up with this guy? Who's actually came up with him? Because it's so high risk a gamble with a board that's so risk averse. You're then looking, you're going, well, this seems very, very strange, and it could be something that they could easily change very, very quickly if Desmond actually decides to actually change it. Or either that they could dig in. I actually do not know how that's actually going to go. But I mean, these players got a better manager than Wolford Nance to the sack.
Yeah.
and that's the bottom line. You're talking about McCowan. Taking off Engels when he was just about to put in a corner kick was absolutely bizarre as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also, his behaviour on the touchline yesterday was, as pointed out by Acsom's very own Amy Canavan, was utterly a joke. He was charging about, running up the touchline. He was waving his hands. The players were ignoring him. The players were really, really ignoring him. Because when you're at the game, and the telecameras didn't pick this up, sometimes you find your focus moving for the game to elsewhere in the stadium. You're going, what's actually happening there? And you start looking at the dugout. And I actually felt sorry for the guy. I really did feel sorry for the guy. They players today could be on their WhatsApp group going, that boy's just cost us a winner's medal. They might be, the players look for somebody to blame. That is the bottom line. But to get back to your point, I've actually rambled like Martin O'Neill there. To actually get back to your point.
Oh, for another Martin O'Neill ramble, seriously.
I would not trust Tisdale to pick my socks in the morning, never mind going to this transfer window.
Would you trust him to put your bin out on a Thursday? Would you trust him to do anything? I wouldn't. I think
my bin day's a Friday, so he's likely to put my bin out on a Thursday.
Precisely. My big issue here, Quinny, is we are looking at January almost like the last possible opportunity to do something that might salvage this season. But then the caveat to that is who's in charge of that window. We've all worked places where the new shiny colleague is transferred from something and he's everybody, all the management love them and all the rest of it, but actually they're useless, right? They're all style and no substance. I'm sorry, the football doctor, his time is already up for me. It's already up.
Meetings.
We have, Kev, we have, I know.
We've all been in the meetings.
We need to be bold. See, change, people are uncomfortable with change, Quinny. And this isn't knee-jerk because it's not just since Nancy's come in. This is Paul Tisdale, who was originally, and when we were in the room with the CEO, we asked the question, originally brought in on a consultancy basis, right? And during that process, we asked the question at that meeting, how was he identified? And KJ wasn't the word when it came to that. It was almost as if, oh no, they've asked a Dermot Desmond question and we can't leave the room to phone or WhatsApp to make sure it's okay to answer, right? And they just babbled on about some nonsense. What we have found out through research and contacts and networks is that Paul Tisdale's process of becoming the head of football operations was through a chance meeting with Dermot Desmond. This is the Stevenage manager. That was his last football position in the third or fourth tier English football, Quinny. And now he's the man to resolve all the issues and solve this problem. He's the man who, without the knowledge of Brendan Rodgers, flew to Japan to conduct and negotiate the Yamada and the Inamura deals. And this is who we're putting all our hopes and our dreams and ambitions on. I'm sorry, it ain't happening. He is not going to make this right. Paul Tisdale.
Yeah,
got to go.
It feels like a long shot. I think the kind of situation we're in, and what I think the sad reality of what's maybe kind of dawned on the club, if it hasn't already, surely by now, is that we really want to watch with Ange and everything that he kind of brought into the club. And it was quite fortuitous when Don Mackay was in the club and how we could like actually do transfers like every other team in Europe does, you know, like sign Alistair Johnson before you sell Juranovic, have two players a position, you know, use your transfer budget, maximize the squad as much as you can. And as soon as like Don Mackay leaves and, you know, like it goes back to being what it used to be before the new kind of little regime tried to get off the ground, it's just been a slow declining process of the processes and habits that we had before that got us into the lurch of the type of situation we were in. So for me, when it comes to this stuff, like, and again, I know Celtic fans are all over the place right now in terms of sides of the fences and whatnot, but for me, like, I think that's what you're kind of hoping from Nancy, is that if he can sign 3 or 4 guys that hit the ground running, and you can kind of, because the words that came out from Nicholson in that interview the other day was the video he put on the YouTube was that they're going to back the manager in the January and in the summer window. They're going to give him everything. And I think, like, yeah, you're right. It can't be Tisdale pulling the trigger on deals. I'd be quite happy for, but again, like we're deciding to go down a path because, like Kev has underlined earlier, this wouldn't, you know, the last 3 games categorically we would not have conceded, I'm going to say, half of the goals we would have if we signed a 4-3-3 manager, regardless of who they were and what level they were, because it would have just been a bit more of a seamless transition and building on the recovery job that Martin O'Neill had done. So if we're deciding to go down this totally different road, again, like, do you trust Tisdale to build the players, buy the players? For this manager, never mind the more kind of simple, traditional kind of system that we've been running with recently, the answer's probably got to be no, hasn't it? But I wouldn't hesitate to back Nancy if we're keeping him, you know, but that's a big decision right now in itself, because I think it's really hard for him to go be sacked by anything like that after 10 days. You know, I know everyone's saying 3 games, but it's 10 days, you know. You put the 3 games into that, that's 7 days. You take in the recovery. How many days of work has he actually had? 4? 5? You know, like, there's a lot that goes on the club for this. He's not had time to set them up for corners. He's not had time to scout hearts and, you know, all this. You're relying on a lot of what's in the club. You know, who's telling him Luke McCowan can play left back? You know, who's telling him to play? You know, you said that Paul John on the first lineup. Who picked that lineup? He might have picked it, and I don't want to discredit him in that regard, you know, but someone's telling him who's who and what's what, and organising set pieces and whatever. And now that Brendan's not there, now that Kennedy isn't there, and so on and so forth, the list goes on. There's only a few faces still in the dugout. There's only a few faces still in the building. And when you see, like, just how far off the mark we are, I don't think Nancy carries a lot of that personally. It's not been perfect. It could have been better. He could have done better. I'm not saying any of that, but I do think I wouldn't give Tisdale the money. I'd give Nancy the money. And I think a lot of the incompetence we've seen is kind of maybe what's around him.
I'm going to say this is layered, right? And I think the closer to the main man at the top of the layer, the closer you are, the more autonomy you're going to get at this football club. So Nancy isn't Dermot Desmond's man. Nancy is Tisdale's man, and Tisdale is Desmond's man. Now, Desmond identified Paul Tisdale, and that's why he's the head of football operations. That is the biggest, most authoritative figure at Celtic Park outside the boardroom, Paul Tisdale. Not the manager, Paul Tisdale. He is running the football department that Nancy is a part of. If you were to look at a structural chart, Nancy's underneath Paul Tisdale. So this is about layers, right? So when we get to Nancy, I'm going to bring this up in the chat here. How did Nancy, how was he identified? And we know this. We know that when Paul Tisdale's the manager of Exeter City for 4 years, Kwame Ampadu is the under-19s. He's the head of the youth at Exeter. He's working alongside Paul Tisdale. So there's your link. That's how we have become aware of an MLS manager with 4 years experience, and we've put everything on red, right? And it's not, for me, it hasn't actually paid off. Now,
I think we put it all on green.
Aye. Listen, though, the thing is, exactly. But the thing is, Quinny, the question remains, and I'm bringing it up because it's coming in the comments in relation to you're giving Nancy too much of an easy ride. Nancy needs to go, and I'm going to bring this up. Absolutely right. Brian says, Brian Harkin, Nancy is the fall guy, right? What is the answer? Says Bobby. Sack him and bring in who? Right. Let's ask ourselves, what is the answer? Alexander, lose to Dundee United and Nancy's gone. Right. Let's. I don't want to think like that. I never do going into a game, Alexander. And what I said about Auchinleck Talbot was actually tongue-in-cheek. However, let's look at the reality of it, right? Kev, the point I've been trying to make, I know. And by the way, I've been in that scenario. So when I was thinking about this week, what if it doesn't get better? How do you deal with it? If you sack the manager and sack the management team, right, you're in a tailspin. Quinny and I kind of touched on this yesterday. You're in a tailspin as a football club. And a football club at the moment that I would hardly describe as stable, Kev, right? You would then be in a tailspin if you sack the manager that you put all this faith in, right? And you could have kept Martin O'Neill. He's confirmed that this morning. You could have kept that just to get us over this. Yeah, you want to build something different, but it's all about timing. Timing can be the enemy, Kev, if you get it wrong. So I cannot see the club sacking Nancy. I absolutely cannot see it happening, right? Even if there are other bad results, because I think the club goes into a tailspin. So to answer the question, what do you do? I think you're giving Nancy an ultimatum. I think you're looking at some of the people who are part of the Martin O'Neill period of stability, and you're saying, look, these guys are still here. Let's bring them in. Doesn't have to be announced. Doesn't have to be high profile. These guys are going to come in and try and get a wee bit of stability. And it might mean in the interim that you listen to the guys. And at that point, it's a test of Nancy's character, Kev. He might say, no, I'm the man. Don't bring these guys in. I'm the manager. They'll listen to me. Or he might concede, wait a minute, maybe I am out of my depth here. Maybe I do need a hand. There's nothing worse, Kevin, being absolutely overflowing with work. Right? There's nothing worse than that, right? And thinking, I'll never get out of this mess. If somebody comes along and gives you a solution, I think you've got to grasp it. However, I don't think he would. Kev Graham, does he get emptied? What would the outcome of that be in terms of the club and where we are stability-wise? And if you do empty him, what next?
Will he get emptied? I've already said that I do think that him and Tisdale have been lined up as a fall guy here for Desmond to come in and look to save us again. I really do. Whether that's next week, next month, or the end of the season, I really do think it will probably be at the end of the season. I think they will give him to the end of the season, unless it really isn't a Desmond guy. I like what you're saying about them now saying, right, we offered you X and he says no to come in your coaching staff. Mm-hmm. Is this now going to happen? By what I've seen, Nancy will say no. You go, no, I didn't want that. I didn't want that. And if he is going to say that, then what he then needs to do is he needs to do what Martin O'Neill says in TalkSport about an hour ago, is lean very, very heavily on the senior players in the squad.
Yeah.
And go, right, what do we need to do here? Right? For me,
they'd respect him more, Kev, would they not? Would the senior players not respect the manager? Because it's all about hierarchy, right? And if the manager comes to you and says, look, guys, I really need to resolve this and you are going to be part of this, do they respect the manager more for that, do you think?
Yes, but they would have respected him more if he would have done it on day one. And if he would have came in and went like, he says, I've got a way of playing, but we're in a very extremely busy period here. So what do you think will benefit the squad? Now, the guy should have done his homework and actually realised the squad was poor and there was no danger that they could ever play the style of football that he wants us to play that quickly, right? Really that quickly. So he would he's going to need to lean on the senior players here to try and get them to buy in. Some of the body language yesterday, we all become body language experts at times like this. The half-hearted handshake with Callum McGregor just after the final whistle and that as well. There's loads of stuff. As you say, there's loads of layers. It's like an onion, a glass onion, more likely it's going to smash at any point.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to lean on the senior players and go, what do I need to do now to get you back on side with me? Because this has been a right tough week and a tough year for them and a tough year for these players because they're now serial losers. They're now big game losers. They cannot win a big game. Like when Champions Leagues are up for grabs, when trophies are up for grabs. They've lost the last 3 massive games. So there's a mentality deficiency in that squad now. And maybe we as fans need to downscale what we actually expect from this squad now because they just haven't got that mentality anymore. But we shouldn't accept it, but that's where we are. And it's maybe something that we need to do in the short term to get back behind the team. Look, what Nancy's done in the 3 games since he's came in, well, more the Roma game and more that game yesterday, I can't believe that he's kept on doing it. It's like me saying to the missus, I'm going out for a couple of pints, I'll be back at 7 o'clock with a Chinese, then staggering at 10 o'clock and no bringing a Chinese. I know what is going to happen. Asking these boys to play that style of football, he should know that's going to happen if he's done his homework. Eh? It's just naivety, really naivety.
Does he still listen to this, Kev?
No,
that right, you're saying. But it's not normally a Chinese, it's a kebab from Abracababra next to the food bar that you normally
Abracababra next to the food bar, aye. But this is where we are. It's just bonkers what he's actually trying to get that team to do. Absolute bonkers. Yeah. Aye. It's fair way. Maybe we just are no built for progressive managers. Quinny would probably answer this. Was Ange Postecoglou a progressive manager?
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
The difference, I listened to Ange Postecoglou and wanted to run through a brick wall for him. I listen to this guy and I just hear contradictions. As Paul says, we've all been in meetings with guys like this who say, I'm going to come in and save you X amounts in your business efficiency. You stand there for an hour and then you still haven't got a clue what he's actually going to do. No clue what he's going to do. Snake oil salesman. That's what he reminds me of the new.
From January, we have gone from the Allianz to also Rans, Quinny, right? And this is a big thing. 10 months, the drop-off has been fairly spectacular. Everybody else is loving it. We know that. We know that people love sticking the boot in, right? Especially if you are built on success. People think that you've found a cheat code along the way, or, you get it easy, or there's a refereeing conspiracy. People don't look at the fact that it's a 365 every day, doing things right to make sure that you actually achieve the success. And we're not doing a lot of the fundamentals right. If you were to take one part of the business and say, because I think there's a cultural issue at the moment at Celtic, and I think as fan media and as fans, and there's been a few examples of me as a season ticket holder at Celtic being treated shambolically to the point where if it was any other business in the world, you would say, I won't be back. But because it's Celtic and there's an emotional attachment, it's completely different. We are now at risk. Quinny will tell you, people started leaving our fan zone. They were like, I've had it. I'm gone. I'm away, right? And a chap called Chris comes up to me and says, you know this? I have been a Celtic season ticket holder for 40 seasons, 40 years, and never once have I thought about chucking it. He says, but I'm going to chuck it. I'm chucking it at the end of the season. And I'll tell you what, it's because he feels so disenfranchised. There is absolutely nothing coming from the club that makes him feel welcome at Celtic Football Club. That is a real concern. Quinny, you go back to last week when JP appeared on Wednesday, he was talking about chucking his season ticket. And if you know how dedicated a fan JP Mason is, that's a massive, massive warning light for me. More and more people are saying this. I've heard all the chat about boycotts, Quinny. I don't even think you need to have an organised boycott. I think people individually are saying, I don't feel part of this anymore. You're just treating me like a mug, and I'm not going to come back. That is one of the biggest, most shocking elements of this, because the one group of people I do have sympathy for, going back to Kevin's initial point, is the fans.
Yeah, and you just reminded me of something. I'm fairly sure it was Kev that said it, but Celtic kind of does feel like a Ponzi scheme at that point. You know, if you're a season ticket holder and you've been ploughing money into it, and you just want to see the team improve and get better, you see the bank balance building up, but everything else is deteriorating. And that was something that, you know, Desmond Jr. was quite quick to try and jump on in his little statement, saying like, oh, he's acts like we're hoarding cash and we're no. And it's not really necessarily about the cash in the bank or whatever, but it's about, you know, people are buying the kits. Why is there money in the bank? People are buying all the kits. People are buying the trainers. They're buying tracksuits and everything else, season tickets and everything that goes along with it. And the team is the thing, you know. Celtic isn't like a business that sells something, or, you know, it's all about football, you know. And if the football isn't good to watch, if the team isn't connected to the fans, if the fans aren't connected to the club, then it just really highlights how not moving forward, like, just default is backwards, you know. Like, you have to be continuously moving forward, looking forward. There is no potential to rest on your laurels or put your feet up or, oh, it'll be fine, mañana, you know. There's just no scope here for it. And like I say, I'm pretty sure it was you, Kev. I'm sure you'll take credit for it if it was. But, you know, for guys like, you know, Chris and that'll be the kind of internal feeling that they've got, is I'm giving so much and I'm getting the middle finger up at me, basically. Never mind nothing, you know.
It's a middle finger. It's a middle finger.
Quinny, yesterday, the atmosphere in the stadium was dreadful, because the Celtic fans have turned up. We've got no faith in the team that they're actually got, after 2 minutes, you're like, all the talk before the game is, if we score first, we'll be all right. If we score first, we will be fine. 90 seconds in, that's out the window, and you're like that. Oh no, here we go. And you've got 30,000 Celtic fans, 30-odd thousand Celtic fans there yesterday, knowing that every one of them sitting up in that boardroom doesn't like us. They've told us they don't like us. They told us we just want your money. And this is where the apathy will come. You will get a natural boycott. Wait till you see the attendance on Sunday, because of the time of year, and folk will maybe go, oh, if this is great, we'll go. But now they've got, I've gone to do a bit of last minute Christmas shopping. I've got to go and get the dinner in for Christmas Day. I've got to go and do other things. All of a sudden will be in front of going to watch Celtic. And I think you've already seen a natural drop off anyway with the number of season ticket holders not turning up. And that will continue now from now to the end of the season, unless there's a massive, massive turnaround. And now that does hit the income, even though they've got your season ticket money. We were having a laugh and a joke on my CSC's WhatsApp there. It was like, what we're going to be like, we'll need to get a weird bus. We'll be doing a We Are Not a People carrier before we can it. By March, September. By March, April. And there will be a natural drop off. Guys from Ireland won't bother coming across. They won't spend their money. It will be.
It happened during the Ronnie Dyler era.
Aye.
Celtic
the banners
lost.
are shaped.
Yeah, Celtic lost and this is just a fact. Celtic lost 15,000 season ticket holders between Gordon Strachan's last season and Tony Mowbray's season. 15,000 were lost over those 2 seasons. Now, here's the thing, right? A wee extract from Ross Desmond, and I've shared this already with Quinny. A wee extract from Ross Desmond's AGM address, right? Now, instead of reading this through the lens of a Celtic board being targeted by those whose only vocation in life is to be anti-establishment, instead, read it from a disconnected Celtic season ticket holder. Here's the quote. "We will not be bullied by aggressive or irrational factions." Who are the irrational factions in this game?
Them.
We will not be railroaded, Kev. We will not be railroaded. Who's trying to railroad who? By those who try to degrade the club. Who's degrading the club here? Some of what we have seen recently is not constructive. You're telling us it is destructive and cynical. Right, let's flip it. Let's practice what you preach as a football club then, Kev. If this is the stuff that they're trying to levy at Celtic supporters, knowing that all the focus was on the AGM, this is a message that everybody's going to see. This is how we feel about the Celtic support. Flip it. Quinny, that is the Celtic boardroom. That's the culture at Celtic in a nutshell. And that's come from Ross Desmond's AGM address.
Yeah. And yeah, like, it kind of speaks for itself, a lot of those words, doesn't it? Because for the most part, before that statement, we were kind of imagining and feeling, and there's just suggesting, some innuendos on their, some of the statements they put out or the lack thereof. But that was like curtain pulled back, fully. Like this is what we think, and this is how we see things. And yeah, it kind of pretty much all speaks for itself. And it's a sad indictment of the situation we're in, because I think it should be the easiest thing in the world to be a good Celtic owner or board or whatever. It's quite simple, just like buy enough, it's even if we just, they make a big deal about how like the club's self-sustaining and we don't need to go to the bank for a loan and all the rest of it. But you sell Matt O'Reilly, spend all the money that we get from, don't bank any of it, spend all of it, put it all back on the team. When these big lump sums come in, Jota we sell Jota for 27 and then we spent like 8 million on 6 guys or something, yeah, so I don't even know where to start with the board, to be honest with you. All that stuff just goes into the weeds for me in terms of like it's just a can of worms, like it's layers upon layers. You go back to the Dialect era again. There's just so many dropped ball opportunities over and over and over again, where it should be easy. It should get exciting players, get them playing. If you sell a good guy, buy good guys to replace them, and yeah, that's kind of all I've got on that.
But on the man, sorry, Kev, but what Kevin says there about exciting players, I mean, exciting managers. This is the thing, right? I don't think there's just 2 categories of manager, like the one who knows the club and they've managed here before, a la Neil Lennon, Brendan Rodgers, Martin O'Neill. They've had 2 spells, each of them, at the football club. We'll go back to that well. Or the manager that's a risk, your Ronnie Dyler, Ange Postecoglou, or Wilfried Nancy. I think you can identify managers like you identify players. What about an up-and-coming manager who performs really well against you in Europe? We play a number of European teams every single season, yet we don't see a manager who's up and coming on a trajectory. We're still talking about Knutson, and I don't think he's the man, because the entire club would need to change to suit one man if Knutson was the manager. But we've known about him since Ange Postecoglou was in the building. It should take this long for him us to say he's a talented manager, he's up and coming, he's a progressive manager, to use your term, Kev. I just think it's right in front of you at times. I know that the Brugge manager's gone, but we played Club Brugge. We know about this manager. We know about his approach to football, yet we never even think to have him on a shortlist. And it comes to the point where we're bringing somebody in and it's a huge risk. We did win a watch with Ange. That was sheer luck, Kev. The PR team were phoning us and every other platform that used to have a press conference pass. They were phoning us saying, oh, by the way, Eddie Howe deal's broke down. It's about to break on the news. But he wasn't the only guy that we were chasing. Nonsense. Of course he was. Ange Postecoglou let it slip in a post-success interview that he wasn't contacted until 3 days after the Eddie Howe deal was announced as being dead in the water, Kev. So we lucked out big time. And then when he's gone, what do we do? Right, we have no ideas. Let's go back to Brendan. So this board at the moment, the makeup of the board, there's no creativity, there's no flair. And they've given, like Quinny said, they've given so much autonomy to Paul Tisdale here. Tisdale's blown it, as far as I'm concerned. He's the first guy He's the first guy that needs to go, and he needs to go before January, Kev.
I don't think that'll happen. I've already said that I do believe that Desmond set these guys up to fail, so he can be looked like to ride in and actually save.
Who would he bring in? Who would he bring in?
Probably Robbie Keane or somebody like that. Somebody that he wanted to appoint. What he wanted to appoint in the first place.
It's been busy in the comments, Kevin. You've just thrown a grenade in. Cheers, mate.
I've just thrown a grenade in. I know that's fine. Because it's almost as if they've went, right, let's give them what they want and we'll see where that gets them. But the manager that they've got, the last time I was on here, it was a couple of weeks ago, and it actually says we try to buy players who have maybe only played 20 or 30 games, have overachieved in those 20 and 30 games with the data and the scouting. Then we say, right, we'll bring them in and see if they can fit. It feels like they've done this with the manager. It feels like they've actually went, let's go somewhere left field and see if we can get an absolute gem that can create a great attacking football team, make us money, and we'll even make money on the manager when he actually goes to somewhere else. That's what it feels like. It feels like we've tried to do it on the cheap instead of going to somebody like, I'm not even going to say Knutson, because I think Knutson would be the exact same. I said that a couple of weeks ago. I was too comfortable with the way that Knutson talks. I just couldn't go. But I'm a 50-year-old guy. He doesn't need to impress me. He needs to impress the boys on the park. So I wouldn't care if Wilfred Nancy, if I think Wilfred Nancy talks nonsense, if the players buy into him. It's the players that need to buy into him, not me. I'll enjoy it and all that, but I'll still say he talks nonsense. So that's where I'm coming from for that point. What was your question again? I can't actually remember your question.
It's all right, Kev. It's
completely.
It's all, as you say, you're 50 now. You're getting to that kind of seniority position.
But what I would actually say, going back to the board, right? This is going back to the board, the banning of fan media, the collective punishment of fan media once again. Ross Desmond, Dermot Desmond, statements on the fans, Brent and Brendan Rodgers, are far, far worse than anything we have says on Acsom regarding them. Far, far worse.
Yep, 100%. 100%, Kev. And this is the thing, and we still roll out the red carpet, let all these people in to pick apart our new manager. I mean, some of the stuff around Nancy's arrival, Quinny and I have spoken about it, was absolutely pathetic. It's just
pathetic.
Tabloid, clickbait nonsense. I'm really keen to bring in some of the frustrated commenters as well, so let's do this. I'm bringing it up because he spoke this morning, and I'm going to throw it at Quinny. Only Martin fixes this. Now, Martin O'Neill was always going to speak about this. I was going to ask him, and I still will, on stage when we meet with him in January, about what was the option. Was there an option for you to take over as a manager? Would you have done it? I mean, it's just the two biggest questions every Celtic fans wants to hear the answers to, Quinny. And he's confirmed that he would have, but they didn't want him. We're in a scenario now where this is spiralling, I'm afraid, Quinny, and you know what it's like when it comes to results. If you don't get the wins, then you're then taking your players to Loch Lomond for a dip, and things get desperate. Things start to get desperate, right? What's your take? A lot of people are saying this. Just get Martin back into the end. In fact, give him an 18-month contract. Let's just, as I say, I just think we're going to a tailspin if that happens, Quinny.
It's a tough decision that needs to be made by a tough person. You know, what happens now and next. Like, the Dundee United game is very interesting. Like, Dundee United will be interesting to see how it goes, but if we finish the Aberdeen game and we've not got 6 points out of the next two, or something anywhere near, it will be almost break emergency glass again situation. Martin is on the hook. He's on the radio today saying, even just point blank, open to jobs. Like, I'd be up for it, and he knows the modern game. He needs to get some coaches in to do his heavy lifting, and he's happy to be the figurehead, the kind of guy that steers the ship and all the rest of it. So Martin O'Neill and Robbie Keane, I would say, if you listen to some of his comments after beating Rangers, they're both kind of still got an eye on the place, I think, because
that's a good point. Yeah, he did. He was asked the question. Absolutely, Quinny. That's a great point.
And Robbie Keane as well was really leaning into it, maybe trying to get some fans on side with him, perhaps, after doing a number on them. But so, like, I wouldn't rule anything out at this stage. Is probably what I'm saying. Anything could happen, but yeah, it takes big cojones to do something like today. I think Dundee United game will probably come and go, and depending on how that goes, maybe moving to Aberdeen's a formality or a given. So it'll be interesting to see how the next week pans out. But again, you fast forward the next two games. If we win them both, we get a couple of goals, we look better. A lot of this chat probably dies down quite quickly, and it's then all eyes again on the transfers and the puppet masters.
The puppet masters, indeed. Let's just have a wee look at this, because I think we were focusing on that first three games, Kev, for a long time.
By the way, I understand fans don't like Keane. I'm not saying anything to the contrary. I'm just saying if you listen to Robbie Keane, he's super leaning into it. That's all I'm saying.
I just put out his name as because it was the first one that jumped into my head. I thought Damien Duff would have been our manager. Yeah. I did think that.
I thought Kieran McKenna, to be honest. I thought if you were to look at maybe Desmond in his pomp when he was the guy calling the shots on Celtic managers, your Brendan Rodgers of the world and Martin O'Neill first time round, I thought Kieran McKenna, and I'm not comparing him to the other two. The other two's done a lot more, but I thought McKenna was of that mould. Kev, other people disagreed with that. However,
I think the problem with McKenna is out of price range.
This is going to cost us. This is going to cost us more.
It might end up costing us more because we don't know what's actually going to happen. But it doesn't look good at this precise moment and on this dark, dank Monday morning. It doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good when you look at the next set of fixtures, because we've been focusing on the three, right? The Hearts game, top of the table clash, Roma, Europa League, Cup final. Let's have a look at the next five, right? So Dundee United away, you've got Jim Goodwin there. I know that you're a fan of Stephen Robinson, for example, Quinny. Jim Goodwin's obviously, will he be remembered for Darvel? I don't know. But Jim Goodwin's sitting there watching the game yesterday and he's tearing Celtic's tactics up for toilet paper. He's the manager. It's away from home. We've then got Aberdeen at home, followed by two away games, Livingston and Motherwell, who have done really well, sitting third in the league, before we face Rangers. So what a set of fixtures, Quirry. It's like, I know there's no perfect time. Every 3 days. It's incredible.
And then after Rangers there's a week to the next game. So that would be his first time to, like, if he can get to the Rangers game. I was looking at this last night on my stream. We were on for a while, but if he can get to the Rangers game, it's in January, then there's like a week till the next fixture. That's like his oasis. If he can make it to there, we might see what he could be as a Celtic manager. But like I said, in the next two games, it could end, that's how thin ice we're skating on here.
That's his little James.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about Oasis, it is. I think we've already had that. Sarah Simpson, I want the Peterborough owner. Dara McAntony, isn't it? Aye. Always
your pal.
Well, at least they never compared us to Stockport County. Upfront and honest, has a plan and structure. The dream. Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's a leader. Now, this is another thing I want to bring up.
Entrepreneur.
An entrepreneur. Yeah. People going about Martin O'Neill, they're going about the fact that he's old school, he's a dinosaur. We heard all of this kind of stuff, didn't we? But he's a leader. And sometimes it's just, it doesn't matter how many courses you go to. It's a natural quality in a person, in a manager, Quinny, to actually have that leadership quality where people will listen to you, they will respect you. Martin O'Neill's got that in spades. And I read a great report about that this morning. It was like, look, that's the one thing that's missing from Celtic at the moment is leadership. Now, way back in 2017, when we started up Acsom, I was talking about culture. What is the culture of our football club? I'm really concerned about the culture of this club. See what I did there? And when we look at the culture, Quinny, I look at the fact that, if, for example, you have got so many different departments and the management style within those departments is so arrogant that everybody's feeling the same, not just the fans, right? So you can talk about the football players because you see their body language. We don't know all the other departments and how they're feeling within the football club, but if there's a culture, they'll all be feeling like that, right? So the management style, if you like, is going to be very much almost, I would describe as establishment. It's an establishment. You'll do what you're told. We're Celtic. We're the most successful football club in the world. And, put the medals on the table. We know what we're doing. Just do it. That's the kind of attitude at the moment, Quinny. That concerns me greatly because the only way you can and change the culture of a football club is from the top.
Yeah. I was just thinking there as you were saying that, we could have used one of those Peter Lawwell Cup final hat-tricks yesterday, that he's
had a
famous
few,
for.
isn't he? Yeah, has he got all the medals up in his wall and all that? Signed jerseys for the players that he swapped them with? I don't think so.
I think the culture thing's a great point, because Nancy, everything we've said to one side is totally left field in terms of culture. He's used to being in American professional sports, just to frame it in that context, of capitalism. If you're not good at the job, you're out, and we'll do an interview process, and we don't care who we find, but we'll find the best guy that we can find, and then we'll go from there. And again, I don't know who does what in the club, but there's no way. I know he's brought him plus 3, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You talk about culture, there's all these other unforeseen people, positions, influences to day-to-day life or operations. And yeah, you just know how kind of Celtic's attitude has been with a lot of this stuff over the years, where you can imagine he's coming in expecting this to be a centre of excellence, and we've had all these championships and we're a top team and we're on the cutting edge, we're a dominant powerhouse in Scottish football. And then he gets here and he's nobody knows what we do at corners, and nobody's got a plan for him for how we play a cup final, which has been on the calendar for a while, and his arrival to the people inside the club wouldn't have been, he didn't just show up on the Tuesday or whatever it was and people were surprised. So I think there's a big culture shock maybe even happening on that regard. Has that also filtered into the players though? Is that maybe part of the disconnect as well? I don't think he's coming in and being full Jesse Marsh and talking about PKs and all that kind of stuff and whatever, but is there maybe just a little bit of that, again, Americanisms maybe just coming into it, and it doesn't quite carry on to the training ground for some of them, and then you get that in the culture of oh, did you see that, didn't they do this or whatever, and then that kind of spreads around, doesn't it?
Let's take that, Kev. I'm going to throw this one to you, Kev. Sorry, I've interrupted you there, but the culture of the players and how it affects them. You've then got player power, Kev. We've been talking about, the instability, if you like, of a new manager coming in, not getting the results. You've also got that thing. I don't even think it's a modern phenomenon. I mean, we had player power back in the 70s when Davy Hay and George Conley went on strike. It's existed for a long, long time. Do you think that plays a part, Kev, in what happens over the next few months in relation to Nancy?
Of course it can. As I say, this squad of players have already got a better managers in the sack, earlier on this season. So of course it's going to come into play. It's an interesting fact. You have to have a look at what a manager can control, and a manager can only control the environment that the players work in and the motivation that they work in. Hopefully they buy in. He can't control really what happens once they go across that white line. I'm disappearing into the light here. He can't control really what happens over when they go into that white line. He can try to influence it, but he can't control it. So the only thing that he can control is his day-to-day work, and that's going in and working with the squad and creating an environment that they want to be in, and the motivation that they want to actually play for this football club and this guy. So at the moment, it doesn't feel like he's even controlling the things that he can control, which is quite worrying. That's the simple things. When he has to lean on the players to try and get control, to try and get buy-in for them. So he just seems to be running about with his hair on fire. that just seems to be. It's almost as if somebody's went to me, Kev, can you rewire my house? And I went in there and started just unplugging stuff and stuff like that. So he has to take control of the things that he can control, and that sounds like his comment yesterday, the ball is the ball, but it's really, really that simple. He can't control that Liam Scales can't pass a ball 5 years, maybe no play him. He can't control that Taneki's a coward and can't play wing back, but he should actually know that anyway. He should actually know that. So he needs to, but he has to control what he can control and what he can control, and I don't think he's doing that. I don't think he's got that culture and that on the training ground yet, and he hasn't got the motivation and the environment that the players have bought into yet.
I think
I'm going to go and shut my blinds.
You make a good point. Yes, it looks like you're dialing in on a pager for 1986. But you make a good point. Martin O'Neill controlled that, Quinny. It was about, knowing what your circle of influence is, right? And everything outside of that, I cannot influence that whatsoever. Therefore, I'm not even going to waste my energy on it. But O'Neill did it really, really well. He was able to just it was almost like an inner sanctum. And right, we know what our abilities are and also what our deficiencies are, because some of the performances were not great, Quinny, but we got the wins anyway, right? And I've heard people saying the wheels were going to come off if O'Neill stayed and all the rest of it. Maybe they were. But he definitely did manage his own wee bubble much, much better than what's happening now. It's all spilling out, unfortunately. After a game, Kev's right. You don't have to be a body language expert to know that there's a disconnect watching that footage back, Quinny.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think with Martin O'Neill and even like Ange came into the conversation earlier as well, like Kev was chatting about. Like, I think personality and like with Martin O'Neill, he's kind of cheating because he comes in as a legend and he's already got buy-in from the McGregors and the Tierneys and all of us straight away. And like you say, in terms of your circle of influence and what you can control, Martin O'Neill doesn't need to think about keeping the press on side, supporter expectations, player performance, all that kind of thing. That's kind of semi like second nature to him, and he's kind of got it under control for whatever anyway. Whereas, this guy's he's got all that's out of hand at the moment. All the press conferences. It's the main thing I see in the chat. Like some of the chat he's coming out with after the game, and I do feel terrible for him. And with me and discussing this situation, I'm trying to keep I'm very much at the crossroads. I've got no idea how this is going to go, for better or for worse. I'm just stopping short of making my mind up on anything, because I really haven't got my mind made up on anything. So some people think that's coming across as positive, but I don't want to say anything that I don't believe in. And I'm right now, like I said to you yesterday, PJ, when we were at the thing, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, really, like normally when I'm watching games, following teams and all the rest of it, I can maybe see and think and feel like I think this will happen, or just it's just kind of the content I do or whatever. But genuinely, like now, I've just got no idea where we are in so many levels, and even some of the chat we're having today, I kind of struggle with a bit, because I'm just like, I've just got no freaking idea what's going on, and really what is the plan? Wilfred Nancy hasn't even been unveiled as Celtic manager officially. We've not had him sitting beside Tisdale and Nicholson and going, this is the plan. We are now going in a direction, or we are now doing this, or nothing. So we have just thrown the guy in to the deep end and then kind of thrown him to the wolves while we're at it. Hearts, Roma, and cup final. And, so I'm not positive, I don't think. But yeah, I'm just like, I'm not going to throw the guy down. The next two games, things can change quickly. I'm quite aware of that. But I'm not going to throw the guy down the stairs on this, because I do feel that, like I said before, how many actual days of work has he had? 4 or 5 or something? Who else is also, like you're talking about circle of influence, how much are people doing for him? Like, how much is delegated where he's relying on other people to have scouted Hearts' corner routines, or tell him, like, why Yang didn't come on at left back? I don't know. Why he didn't start. See the team that started the cup final? Donovan, Ralston, the kind of lopsided back five kind of thing. His first press interview, Nancy said he's just going to tweak things. That's the sort of tweak I'm expecting to see. Is you've still got guys in the right spots, but you're just telling them, listen, you actually attack way more, and you are going to defend a lot more. Game 1, let's take it from there. That worked well, and then build it and layer it. Some of the stuff he was saying in the first 2 matches, but what we've seen didn't marry in. So maybe he's spoken to the players. I didn't really catch that quote from before, but maybe that's what we've seen for the beginning of the cup final. And like Kev said, and I definitely agree with it, after 35 minutes, once Iheanacho leaves, the team's a man down, and anything that was kind of good or working didn't, for any number of reasons we can talk about. So because of that, I really struggle to throw the guy down the stairs now and say he might be out of his depth. He might not be a good fit. It might never work out for him. And I'm not saying anything different to it, but I don't think the last 10 days is definitive in one way or the other. I'm still quite like, the next game or two, I think we'll all be on the same page, but I'm not quite on a page.
Quinny, he's won 11 games in his last 33.
Pause for a moment, just to let that one land. Kev, that's a good point as well, because people were talking about, implementing change far too soon. Ange Postecoglou, if you want to talk about shape, you want to talk about, I'd never even heard of an inverted fullback. Sorry, guys. I'd never heard of what an inverted fullback was or what it did until Ange came along into the building and he's asking guys to play a position they've never played in their life. But the message was pretty clear because they played it. And, you know, Kevin, it worked. And it worked as well. So there's a side of me thinking it's no the change. It's the way it's been implemented as well, because you can implement change and it works. One thing I would say, by the way, ladies and gents, thanks every single one of you. You've taken our viewer tally right now live, and Quinny will tell you how incredible this is. We have 7,000 people watching this stream all over the planet, right? Wow. All over the globe. Celtic fans, and I'm sure there's a few others in just to give us a wee dig, and that's football. 7,000 live. We currently, Kev, are hosting a live fans forum. That's what we're doing, because by the end of this particular show and by the end of the night, when I have a wee look at the tally this evening, there'll be over 1,000 comments made. That's Celtic fans discussing directly with us, discussing with each other. People get to know each other in the chat group, etc., having an output somewhere where they can go to actually vent their frustrations, discuss, debate, and argue and all that kind of stuff about Celtic. Meanwhile, right, and we're locked out at Celtic Park. Meanwhile, go and have a look at Celtic Football Club's X channel, right, for their content on X. Last thing they did was a full-time score 19 hours ago. They've gone into hiding again. They've done it earlier on this season. Remember when it was Jock Stein's anniversary? Didn't even put out a tweet. This is the way Celtic are treating fans. It's the way they're treating fan media. There's no engagement. The communication is absolutely amateurish. And this is where we are. We'll keep fighting every single day on a Celtic State of Mind. Got to say, 7,000, unbelievable. If you are enjoying the fact that we have this community, people, give us a thumbs up. I'm not going to ask if you're enjoying the content of our discussion, because it's not great, right? We don't decide on that part. We just discuss it. But give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and join us again tomorrow at 12:30 on a Celtic State of Mind.
Cheers.